Welcome to the Relateable podcast, a safe space for open and honest conversations created for Black people.
This podcast explores how we relate to one another in our intimate connections, friendships, family, and everything in between. Hosted by 3 Caribbean women. I am Fiona, a single mom.
I'm Sherween, a very near empty nester.
And I'm Chantal, a free-spirited monogamist. Relatable, because a shared journey brings hope.
Welcome, folks, to this new episode of the Relateable podcast. We are so happy to have you here. This is season 4. We stuck to our guns and we are so happy to continue season 4. And we have an amazing, nostalgic episode for you today. And I am so excited. But before we get into this topic, let's do our weekly check-in. Who should I start with first? I'll be gentle today. Chantal, how are you?
Oh, I thought you were going to go with Sherween.
No.
Oh, gosh. How am I? I'm good. I am a little tired because your girl went outside last night with some friends. We had a lovely Galentine's dinner. So celebrating friendship and sisterhood. And then we decide, mind you, the average age of this group of women probably is like 45, 46, right? So, or maybe a little older because 2 people were older than me. We decide we all going out afterwards. We went dancing. Okay. The music, we kept on looking at each other like, what the fuck is this? But we persevered and the music steadily got better. And then we danced and we did all the things. You know, for us, we got home late. And this is probably the time all the younger people were arriving, but we got home like 1 o'clock. And woke up today as if I was drinking. Woke up feeling hungover. I'm like, why am I feeling hungover? You're feeling hungover because you're old, bitch. You're old. So you don't have to drink. All you have to do is stay up late and dance. And you mash up. So that is how I actually am today. I am mash up, but mash up and good. How about you, Sherween? Like I don't know.
How am I? Yes.
How are you, my love?
I'll set the scene.
Oh,
I'm
gosh.
going to give...
Wait. So Fiona and I are going to have to use pineapple on you?
Yes. Oh, no. I'll not be long. I'll set the scene.
Right.
I will give Bree the video I posted yesterday.
Wow.
I'll give it to Bree. Yesterday, I was Miss Big, Bad, and Bold, yeah? Mm-hmm. And I went and I bought black pudding for me to eat. Now, usually the black pudding is ready about 12 o'clock. I went there after 3 and eat black pudding. The black pudding was cold. Mm. And I made the most beautiful video. I've never had so many people slide into my DMs telling me how much they love the video.
Beautiful.
Beautiful, you know.
That's
what she said, Fiona.
Beautiful.
What was it, Fiona, if it wasn't beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
I would say suggestive. Mm-hmm. I would say very reflective of people's skill sets. I would say it
was just a video of me eating some black pudding. I do not get
beautiful is the last word I would call it.
Yeah.
Perhaps if I was of a certain sex and had a certain phallic attribute, I would call it beautiful. But I don't know.
Yeah, if people need to get their minds out of the gutter, I was eating black pudding with the biggest smile on my face because we all know how much I like black pudding.
Yes, we do.
I love black pudding, and Choiseul black pudding is the best.
Is it?
So I had a massive piece of black pudding.
Mm-hmm.
That black pudding had the thing they put it in. I don't know what it's called. That had veins and all. That was how big that was. Anyway,
veins, you know.
So that was the before, and then at about 7 o'clock in the evening, my belly started rumbling. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you all, I've had 3 kids. I've not been in so much pain. I got food poisoning from that black pudding.
try not to
And
laugh.
I
I'm
ended up
sorry.
in the hospital last night after 10, screaming my eyes out, screaming, screaming, bawling, 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 because I've never had food poisoning like that. And I cried and I got to the hospital, got put on drips, and I got home at 3 o'clock this morning.
Hmm.
So I'm not doing my best.
I'm so sorry that happened to you,
I am
Sherween.
not doing my best, but I still stand. My video was beautiful.
I don't know
Mm.
about that.
I
I don't
still it
know.
still stands. But anyway,
Uh-huh.
viewers, listeners, y'all will
Hmm.
tell me your thoughts, okay? But yes, I
Okay.
did end up in hospital last night on drips and medication for food poisoning because I should have heated it up. I did not heat it up.
Come on,
And
Oh.
Sherween.
yeah, I just ate it like that and it was cold. So
No,
instead of
that's a
Fiona
rookie
came,
error.
yeah,
Wow.
rookie error. I hear Fiona there. Oh, I hear. That's how I am. Fiona, how are you doing? How are you
Yes.
doing, Fiona?
Yes,
I'm
Fiona.
very well. I'm very
Okay.
well. I sent Sherween a photograph for her to see. I'm up to, how do you say mischievous in English? Uh,
Mischievous.
yes, yes. I'm just doing a little something. And then when I was, okay, so people in Relatable can hear, but I'm just painting a bin, right?
Hmm.
Put lower down my road because there's a lot of trash on the road, but there's no bin there. So people have nowhere to throw it. So they just throw it on the road, right? So it's an eyesore. So I have an extra barrel there that I'm painting on the bin. And then people telling me, well, if you put it there, somebody will thief it. And then I said, so I decided, I wrote a note on it. And
We
Hmm.
it
will
said,
plug that. We will plug that picture as well.
yeah, I
Oh,
said, I put on it, Obia has been put on this bin for any thief who wants to thief this bin.
any volley.
Yes, any volley. If don't be selfish, this bin is for everybody. And I'm just gonna put
Oh,
it there in the middle of the night, and just so people in the morning they wake up and whatever, so you can receive, not that, oh, Fiona comes and puts a thing there, but this bin has just arrived here. But then I realized I've been doing this. There was there was a time there when Sandals had put up some pillars on the beach, and you're not supposed to do that, as a way to deter locals from going by the beach. And then
wow.
I put up a sign in the middle of the night, like I covered myself and whatever. And then I put, Jack don't want me to bathe upon my beach. The beach is mine. I could bathe anytime. And it made news. And then someone else joined in, and they put a sign by my sign, and they said no to recolonization or whatever. This is days of high fives. It's a long time ago. And I
Wow.
realized, and then of course with the don't be a malpop thing, I'm just realizing this is a trend of mine, because there's something else that was done that still nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Nobody
Yes,
knows. Let's leave it
yes,
there.
exactly. So I just realized that's just a thing I do, and I've learned that from my father. So that's
Wow.
how I am.
I had my video on Instagram, but I took it down because I was so mad at that black pudding. I took it
Oh,
down.
I,
Yes. Oh,
oh, okay.
Shut up. I took it down, but I'll give it to our manager who's gonna post it to show because
you
people
know
need
what
to
we're gonna
understand.
do? Let's put up a poll. Yeah.
Hmm.
And let's say the poll is the options will be, she's just innocently eating black
Oh,
pudding,
come on. That's a
or
fail. That's a fail.
or
Fiona, this
no,
should be
she
no.
knows damn well what she's doing. And let's
I,
know, because clearly Sherween is saying that we are, you
mhm.
know, we're judging her. We're being judgy.
I
No,
feel judged.
not at all. No, I,
I
I
feel
am not
judged.
judging you. I was just traumatized. Okay?
I love the pool.
I am not
But you're
I
judging
love
you.
vegan,
the
right?
pool. I love the pool. But anyway, any
It's because you're vegan, Chantal. That's why you're traumatized, not for
Yes, of course.
anything
That's
else.
why.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, I'm gonna
And
go
the
with that.
messages you received, Sherwin, were they predominantly from men?
moving on,
Wow. Well, that answers the question.
moving
And
along.
we move. So
Next
We
question.
Fiona,
move. Let's
Fiona,
go. Somebody, are we going back to memory lane today? Back on
Fiona.
memory lane? What are we doing today, Miss Fiona?
Yes, Fiona, you're
Next
leading the
question.
conversation today. So tell us, what are we doing? What are we talking about?
we are going through some eras of nostalgia,
Mm-hmm.
eras of our life that, shaped us to who we are today. So we're going to go down through teenage years,
Mm-hmm.
going up into our 20s, our 30s, and then into our 40s. But just speaking
Mm.
about um, moments that stick with us, stayed with us. For me, there's
Okay.
a lot of y'all know that I am Miss Eternal Sunshine. I
Mm-hmm.
make myself forget things that were hard, painful, or whatever,
Mm.
or moments I just didn't like, and I didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
keep those memories. But then still, there's some that stick with me anyway, good and bad. And so we're just gonna go through speaking about these experiences and
Mm.
why they have stayed with us, why they are
Okay.
important to us. All
Okay. So
right.
milestone years.
Yes, let's start from the beginning.
Oh.
I know that we have spoken a lot about, like in our past, like our experiences, grown ups, different things that have happened. But in our teenage years,
Oh
I mean,
Lord.
the teenage years you could say starts from what, say 13 to
Mm-hmm.
18, right?
Okay. Okay.
But what was really impacted you, say, within that 5 year period, or was there a specific year
Mm.
within that teenage time that was a milestone year for you? Sherween.
Okay. Oh yes. Thank you.
Why you wanna start with me?
That's right.
The only thing milestone about my teenage years was man.
Okay.
I was very much enjoying my teenage years. But if I were to think back, I think the year that stood out to me the most was when I was 16, when I finished school, when I finished high
Mm.
school.
Mm.
Because hey, man, a bad man. I finished high school. I got all my GCSE grades, well, CXC grades, 8 of them. I passed all of them.
All of
And
them.
I feel like I was the baddest thing in town because my other cousins, one, I finished school before all of them, even though all of them older than me. So I was done with school before them. Two, two, them ones, when they did do school, Sherween was the dandadagasa. I passed all my grades, even though I was the one everybody was looking at, like, Sherween this, Sherween that, Sherween is a little, you know. But
Mm.
Sherween showed them, even though daddy were you expecting me to do well at high school? I putting you on the spot right now.
Right, actually. So you used to mess around, but at the same time, you know when it comes to your classes, you take your school thing serious. It's like,
I wasn't taking it serious, so daddy, I was just bright.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Okay. That should be left in that conversation with Zaddy. I'm sorry, Daddy.
You living that in? Oh my god.
Yes.
Yes, the interaction with your dad, 100%.
Oh my God. So yeah, I did really well. I did really, really well at high school. I did my 8 subjects and my other cousins now, who everybody was thinking, oh boy, yeah, they're going, and none of them did well. So
Mm.
on top of me being the Jamet, I was
Mm-hmm.
also the one not to mess with when it comes to education.
Mm-hmm.
So when I graduated high school. I'm a big woman in it. Don't talk to me. So first thing I go and do, I join a carnival band. My
Yes.
I go and work. My mother tell me, "Oh, you never. I pay no carnival for you." I say, "Oh, I go and work." I got my first job. I begged
Mm-hmm.
them. I was barely 16
Right.
because I graduated young. And then I did not have national insurance yet, so I had to work on my mother's national insurance. And my mother was getting my salary. So I had to be going to her and telling her, I want my money. Give me my money.
Mm-hmm.
Give
My
me my
God.
money. Give me my money. And then when I turned 16, I started having that. Hey. Sherwin was a menace. Sherwin was buying all the clothes. I had a shoe. I'll try to find a picture of that shoe. I
Mm.
have a shoe, a high heel. When I tell you the most jumet red high heel shoe you could think
Girl.
about, yeah, I did all the things that I wanted to do, and my mother was stopping me from doing it. I put the longest patra braids,
Oh my God. Yep.
the
Yep.
longest braids I put. And I was just a menace, and my mom, there's nothing she could do. I finished
Mm.
school already. I working for my money. So that year was memorable to me because I got to do a lot of things. That's when I really started partying. That's when Indies, Girl Fiona Indies was my home. My mother don't even know where I am. I tell her, mommy, I'm going to work, come back next day. Because trust, I have my clothes, finish work, chill by a friend, bathe, go in
Hmm.
these. It was
Nobody
heaven.
could tell you anything.
Nobody could talk to me. Nobody could talk to me.
Wow.
Um, and you don't know, I had all the guys. I was juggling, and I was like, yeah. But then I met not met her. I decided to settle with my kid's dad, and
Hmm.
um, it didn't last too long. I think by the time I was 17, when my mom left, I was St. Lucia, I was 17, turning 18, and as soon as she left, I settled with him.
Hmm.
And so kids, boom, one time. Yeah, but that's
Okay.
my teenage years. I enjoyed. I enjoyed
Yeah.
very much. But 16 was a big year for me.
The magic number.
The
Okay.
magic number.
Nice.
What
I
about
love
you
that.
guys?
For me, my teenage years were, in a sense, typically teenage, discovering myself, kind of exploring boundaries. Two things stand out for me. The first is, preparing for my 13th birthday party. My mom was making such a big deal of me turning 13. And I was in the shower and I got my period for the first time
Mm.
on my 13th birthday. And at first, I didn't know what it was because, in my mind, it was going to be like this gush of blood, bright red, you know, a never ending stream. And it was nothing like that. And I was in the shower and I was like, Mom. And of course, mommy's in the kitchen. She's preparing for this party. She comes in, What happened to you? What happened to you? I said, I think I got my period. And she whipped open the shower curtain. She's like, What? On your birthday? Are you sure? I'm like,
Mm.
yes. And I looked down and she looked down and she looked at me. She's like, okay. And she went into the bathroom cupboard and she had come back from England a few months before. And of course, especially back then, had shipped down barrels filled with things. And in the barrel was, at the time, what were they called? Vespri? Something so. Sanitary napkins. And she just gave me a box and she looked at me and she said, Right, you know what to do. And that was it. She went back in the kitchen to continue baking her cake. Eh?
Oh.
Um, so that stood out. And I think one of the greatest things in my whole teenage stretch was I fell in love. And I fell in love with radio. And I was given the opportunity to intern at our first radio station here in Nevis, Vaughan Radio, 895 AM, with 10,000 watts of power, the Caribbean's powerhouse. I'm
10,000
dying.
watts.
Oh my
10,000
God.
watts. I don't
Listen,
know what I even mean. But
yo, I don't know. And so I remember when my favorite teacher announced in class, Mrs. Hodge, that her brother was building a radio station. And I was in the class, guys. And it's like I got goosebumps. And I felt like I was having an out of body experience, right? And I'm looking at Mrs. Hodge and I'm like, wait, we're going to have a radio station? And I don't even know where the word internship came from. But I put up my hand and I said, Mrs. Hodge, can you ask your brother if I can be an intern at the radio station? And she looked at me and she said, okay. And so I guess she did. And then my mom got a call the next day for me to come in and audition at this radio station. My mom was like, what is this all about? So I told her and she said, okay. So we drove over and I remember being so nervous, right?
of
Because
course.
when they opened the doors, I'm in a radio station. This is where the real magic happens. And I'm looking, and there's an on air sign over one of the doors. And then there's like production studio 1, production studio 2. I'm thinking, what? So then the manager comes out, Mr. Herbert, and takes me into production room one. And back then, like this is the 80s, there's like a reel to reel machine, a cart machine. Like nothing was digitized back then, it was all manual. And he said, right, Chantal, I need to hear your voice. I need you to read from this for me. So I think the man handed me a book. When me look is the Bible. And even then, I had very strong feelings about the Bible and the
Mm.
fact that in my mind, it was all fabricated. And so I was like, really? This is what I'm auditioning with? The Bible? Okay. So, I read whatever scripture he selected. I remember the room was quiet. It was him and my mom. And then I finished. And so I looked up, and Mr. Herbert was looking at me like, what the ass? And he said, okay. And he said, he looked at my mom and he said, your daughter reads very well and she has a fantastic voice. My mother, I know. My mother, I'm like, okay. And he said, okay, so let me think about how this internship is going to work. And so I looked at him and I said, does that mean that like I have the internship? And he said, yes, absolutely. So I floated out to the station. 2 weeks later, Hurricane Hugo.
Chantal, you
Two
just
weeks.
always have some plot twist.
It's the plot twist. 2 weeks later, my mom was in England with my sister, Fallon, and Hurricane Hugo. So me and my dad are prepping the house and whatnot. We were already been told it's going to be a category 5, all the things. And the winds are now picking up. We've secured the house. We still have electricity and running water at this point. And then the phone rings and my dad says, okay, right. He said, right, Shani, put on some clothes. You have to go to the radio station. I'm like, in this? Because by that time, I think we were already at a Cat 3. And I'm like, where are we going? He said, we have to go to the radio station. Mr. Herbert wants you to send out an SOS and he wants you to do it. I said, what?
Wow.
My ass.
Hold
Mind
on.
you.
You 13, yeah?
16.
16, sorry, 16.
I'm like, wait, what? So we there driving and the wind, we had this little Suzuki and the wind is blowing the Jeep. I'm thinking, yo, what? We get to the station. Mr. Herbert comes to the door. He's already wearing like a rain mac and whatnot. And he said, right, Chantal, you need to sit in front of this mic. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. And you need to send out an SOS to let people know that Nevis is here. We're going to be facing a Cat 5 and asking for the military to come and help us. I'm like, what?
Miss?
So then I had to write
How
this
did you do that,
script.
family?
Yo, I had to. I went into Calm. I wrote the script. I said, is this okay? He said, yep. He said, go ahead. I'm like, shit. So I'm sending out this SOS for Nevis, right? A Cuban radio picked us up. And then some American military picked up the SOS. And, they were relaying messages and saying, we can hear you. We can hear you. We're coming, right? Mm-hmm. So by the time we drove home, and of course, the hurricane escalated, and like the next day, we'd been slammed. The military were already in Nevis, ready to help us with supplies. Yes. So my first introduction to radio was to send out an SOS during Hurricane Hugo to get the military to Nevis to help us.
Crazy.
Yeah. So that is a huge standout moment for my 16-year-old self. And that is how I was introduced to radio. And I've been in love with it ever since.
Amazing.
And then I'm at 16 just taking man. Anyway, moving on.
Shall we? Fiona.
Fiona, what about you?
I think for me I don't think there's one specific moment. I think there were many. I think because my life was very dichotomous, right? And I think for me as a teenager, it was really trying to find myself, because you have to remember, growing up in the public eye, people tell you what you
Mm,
are supposed to be.
right.
And if they don't tell you what you're supposed to be, people put their expectations on you, on what they're supposed to be. So there will be little moments where people will form assumptions because I am Compton's daughter,
Hmm.
right?
Of course.
And behaviors, normal teenage behaviors, would be amplified as a negative thing being in the public eye.
Mhm.
So, for example, if say you're walking in town and some fella is calling you, catcalling you, right? Now, as especially if say it's a grown man or something like that, it is a child is not supposed to take on these people. You're supposed to ignore it, just continue walking. But then people would shouting, "Oh, it's because you Compton daughter, you feel you're better than me," or
Oh God.
someone had relayed a story. And the thing is, my mom had always taught us to be helpful and like to stay behind and help or whatever. I think there was some time when people were stacking chairs at the school. And I don't know, I went to do something or whatever. Now, one of my memories at school was always stacking chairs and helping, even when a lot of people
Hmm.
left and went about their
Hmm.
business.
Yes.
And a lot of time people would not have witnessed me helping, but I wasn't doing it for people to see. It's just something you did. It was an expectation from my own brought up see that that's what you did, right? And then I think maybe one time I didn't do it. And then there was this whole someone was saying, "Yes, I remember you were growing up. There was a time you didn't even want to help with the chairs because you feel you Compton dots, so you think you're better than everybody."
Oh, what?
So I think for my teenage years was
Hmm.
difficult because of course you coming to understand yourself. Then people would make very judgy comments and assumptions when I'm just trying to be a normal human being, a teenager who's starting to have interest in boys. And walking through town was really difficult because people would shout shit at me. If it's not
Hmm.
yellow, if it's not white big, if it's not Compton, if it's not, oh, you have too much style. When I was like totally self conscious, boys did
Hmm.
not talk to me, right? Or boys assumed things about me. So it
Hmm.
was a really difficult time. And even also my friends assume things. They would make comments, snide comments, when in truth they didn't know anything. They didn't know how I was feeling. They didn't know like how insecure I was growing
Hmm.
up. And then having to be thrust into the public eye and having to stand up on platforms and go to all of these things. And it was really pressing. And then, of course, my father, being my father, would drive me to school, right? And it is not often, I mean, now looking back, I appreciate it because you don't see prime ministers driving their child to school. You don't see prime ministers teaching their child to drive on a morning. You don't see prime ministers having their child in the back of the van going down and
Hmm.
collect fruit. You don't see that. But as a teenager, when people are thrusting their own impressions on you, it was very heavy, very weighty, very, very weighty.
Hmm.
And I always felt like I had to be managing people's expectations of me as a teenager. Your mother, Fiona, don't do this because people are gonna say this. And even when I didn't do those things, people said stuff anyway. So
Hmm.
it was a lot of heavy balance. I did not have um I think the freedoms of not having judgment.
Oh, Fee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as a teenager, you judging yourself,
Girl.
you don't feel, and then and like I said, of course, like things that add to your confidence is if someone says you're beautiful, or if a fella say he like to see you, or you have a
Hmm.
boyfriend. Those things add to it, right? But I never
Yeah.
had any of that. And I did want to have a little boyfriend and those kind of thing. There had
Hmm.
fellas I had crushes on, but I couldn't do anything about it. So in that aspect, in terms of like when I think about Sherween's parallels, it was
Right.
very, very different. um
Yeah.
but yeah, but in terms of like, it was it I just think of it as it being quite heavy because from a political perspective, government perspective, prime minister's daughter's perspective, a teenager trying to understand herself perspective, and then just a regular person having their lens on you
Mm.
and putting their own judgments on you, and that nothing you could do could ever satisfy them. It was
Right.
a lot for me as a teenager. Yeah.
Oh gosh. I can't even imagine, Fee, because just being a regular teenager growing up in the
Mhm.
Caribbean, all eyes are on you anyway, because the entire village feel like they own you.
Correct.
So,
Yep.
and to have that added lens of being the prime minister's daughter, boy, that must have been a lot, girl.
Long.
Oh
It's still
gosh.
long now.
I know, I've been there
Sherwin
with
could
you.
tell you.
Oh
Sherwin
my
could tell
goodness.
you. Sherwin would say, Fiona, everybody you go, everybody just calling you, whatever. You
Yes,
know, long.
long
But yes.
indeed.
So now that we've spoken about teenage years, let's fast forward a little bit.
Mm.
Let's step into our 20s, maybe touch on our 30s. So, Sherwin, let's start with you, right? Bad girl, Sherwin. She have her own
Hmm.
independence, her own money, her this, and you settled into a relationship, and you're now a mom.
Yep.
What was it like for you transitioning into your 20s and having these new responsibilities and everything?
Well, just before I had Haley, that's when I was going through my Bobo Shanti era. And I had my locks and I go in tabernacle. I've spoken about it many times.
Mm.
And then when I got pregnant with Haley, I quickly realized that one, my child father can't do shit, not bringing in anything. Both of us watching each other. I pregnant, I starving in the house, and we're watching each other like, oh, you're doing nothing. And so I cut the locks. I changed my lifestyle. I said, I'm bringing a child on this earth. I am going to work. Now I'm 19, yeah. So then
Mm.
Jade comes along. I was working at the hotels. I had my best friend with me, and it was good. I was partying and enjoying because I had a family structure around me. I had my aunties and them around me who were looking after the kids. The dad, he was there sometimes or not, whatever. But my early 20s, they were fine until I realized this man is the family I want for myself and my children. I'm not going to get it with him. And I
Mm.
saw myself going down a very dangerous path. I saw myself doing things that I'm not proud of now. I don't regret because they were lessons, and I knew, okay, Sherween, you have a decision to make. Either you stick to that path you're on, and your children will just be like one of them training the boulevard, their mother's doing shit, their father's not there, and the streets raising your children. Or I could give my children the life I wanted, the life I didn't have, and the life I want for them, and the opportunities. So I decided to leave and go to the UK. Best decision, obviously, for me at the time with the kids. So my 20s, I was very much a hands-on mom, very, very much. And then I met my husband, I got married, and I had Lucas at 25. So my 20s were all about my children,
Mm.
all about the kids, all about making sure that, one, they're fine, they get everything they want. Two, I'm a good wife at 25. I'm an
Mm.
amazing wife. Um, and yeah, that was my life. And then I remember quite vividly going into my 30s, and on my 30th birthday, I was crying my eyes out.
Oh.
I cried. There was nothing anybody could do to console me. And it's because I felt I had not done anything for myself.
Oh
I
boy.
watched my life and I was like, my God, my entire 20s come and go. And my children, yeah, they're wonderful. I have a good family and thing, but I've not done anything for myself. I've not traveled as much. I've not, I saw myself as very mumsy. And then I posted that again, high five. I posted that on high five.
High five.
My ex-husband took me to lunch somewhere, a nice lunch. and I was at the table crying. And we took a picture and I posted it on High Five and saying, I can't believe I'm 30. I have not done much with my life apart from raise kids, blah, blah, blah. And then my best friend who had passed away a year before that, her sister messaged me and said, at least you're alive and you made it to 30. Hey, that hit me.
Hmm.
That
Mm.
hit me because my
Hmm.
best friend, she died. The two of us were ride or die. Yeah, you see, Fiona and myself, Chantal, how we are, we close. We
Yes.
were closer. We did all the shit. We did everything. We were like Bonnie and Clyde, Gassa.
Oh gosh.
And then she had leukemia, and she
Oh.
passed away. And she passed away before she turned 30. So
Hmm.
when the sister said that to me, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like,
Right,
okay,
right.
Sherween, you're not appreciating what you have. You're not
Yeah.
appreciating the fact that you're alive. You're not appreciating the fact that
Hmm.
you have three beautiful kids. Well, four, because I had my stepdaughter. And you
Right.
just go crying, crying, crying. Look at all what you've accomplished. And that really, really made me think.
Hmm.
So going into my 30s now, I was like, okay, how do I do what's best for me and still be a family and a mom
Hmm.
and a wife and whatnot. So that's when university, I was in between I was midway through university at that time.
Hmm.
Uh, when I was at uni, I just started doing all the things. So the what you call it, perimenopause kicking in, eh?
Hmm.
Is it the PTA? Yes, PTA. I
Hmm.
was doing all the things. That's when I really stepped up. And then I started looking at the tourist board. I started doing adult grown-up things for me, taking the time and going to work. We started the
Hmm.
company. And I'm like, I'm not going to go into my 30s crying and feeling sorry for myself. I'm gonna do the things. So
Hmm.
my 30s, I did a lot. I did a lot. I did a lot more traveling. I did a lot of business, my work life, and the kids. I had a nice balance. My husband, I thought we were going through a nice balance, everything. But then that fucked up because whilst I'm doing all these things, he's there feeling neglected. So it's like something had to give.
Right.
Um, but yeah, my 30s were very productive. I could say extremely productive.
Hmm.
20s was all about kids and family, 30s productive, and then lo and behold, 30s divorced and a new person. So yeah, that's
Wow.
that's me. That's me.
Wow. It sounds like you really started to come into yourself in your 30s,
I
Sherween.
did.
You
I
know,
did.
and
It was in my 30s
yeah,
that I woke up.
right.
Yeah, after the
My
divorce, for
goodness.
sure, I woke up after the
Mm.
divorce. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that will do it.
Yep. Hey, 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 sink or swim, eh? Sink or
Yo.
swim. Sink or
Sink
swim.
or swim. And
Yep.
so now we're heading to Fiona to continue on our little reminiscing through milestone ages.
Mm.
Fiona, the 40s.
All
Girl.
right.
Yes.
Um, the 40s. Well, I'm 43 now, so
Yeah.
I haven't finished a
You're
decade, but
still there.
it really was. I think it's the feeling side to come from in my late 30s, having a
Mm.
different kind of self confidence, a different kind of. I think after going through all the things that I went through in my 20s, which was, parenthood into my 30s, um, breaking up with, my son's father and having a series of very shitty relationships, or some of them were not even relationships, but just really moments of extreme deep depression in my
Mm.
30s, and isolation. But then when I started to come out of that and having a different level of confidence and having purpose, and you could say, No, Your Caribbean definitely added to that. But
Yes.
just
Yes.
doing things on my own terms. So, the weight that I was feeling like as a teenager,
Mm.
yes, it's some of those obligations still linger because people have these expectations of you and it feels like demands,
Mm.
right? On how you're supposed to be. But people now refer to me as the mad thing, right? Fiona does dress any way she wants. Fiona hair, there's always be something. Fiona's just always just doing what I want, right? An idea,
Mm.
boom, you all know, I have this idea, let's do it, and just do it.
Yes.
Just doing it. So a lot of times I do things and I don't wait for approval from anybody. And I think that's why I've done a lot of people say, Fiona, you do so many things. And I think, just it's just through this conversation here now having this realization. It's
Mm.
because I was tired of having to do what people expect of me or be what people expect of me. Strangers,
Right.
solutions who only see me as Compton's daughter, but not as a human being, as a person. People who just expect me to be a certain way and waiting for the approval that I will never get. So
Mm.
I'm going to do it anyway. So that's why as soon as I have an idea, I just do it. Because the moment you get a piece of reluctance from somebody, you're going to stop doing it and then your idea
Yes.
is dead.
Yes.
So at the 40s has really become that like, I want to do it, I'm going to do it. Don't
Mm.
wait, just do it. And I think when you do it and it's out there, it adds to your self confidence. Because if you hold on to these ideas or wait for approval from other people, it's you're going to slowly sink into just being very self conscious or not believing in yourself
Yes.
because you're waiting for other people to give you that confirmation that your idea is valid or what you want to do is valid or whatever. So the 40s has really brought that. I just doing me for me now because
Mm.
I think there's nothing worse than having an idea that's like when I have an idea, when I have something that I want to do, it's like having something in my mouth. And it's like not being able to do it is like holding my breath. So I feel suffocated. Literally, I feel suffocated. So I must do it in order for me to breathe. And that is what my 40s has brought me.
Wow, Fee. And I love to see it. Can I just say, I love to fucking see you do your thing and be Fiona. Because Fiona is such a really powerful energy. Like, you are a phenomenal woman. And even in your 30s, when you couldn't see it, most of us around you could. To be fair, right? But just to
Exactly.
see you own it, Fiona, it's so beautiful. I love it. And I love seeing you this happy. I love seeing your happiness not being dependent on if you're in a relationship or not. Like, this is all Fiona juice, and it's great. I love it. And I'm looking
Thank
forward
you.
to seeing how this expands into not just know your Caribbean, but just into continuously into other areas of your life. Really looking forward to that. So,
Thank you, my
yeah.
girl.
Mm.
For
I
miles,
haven't
so
spoken about my 50s.
no, you haven't.
Exactly.
Girl,
How's
talk to
that,
me.
Chantal? How is it?
How is it? Well, I turned 52 in a few months, right? And so far from me, my 50s have been, it's a combination of realizing who the fuck I am, um, softening, and I've needed to soften. And I say this because I was the first daughter. I am the first daughter, the first granddaughter, the first great granddaughter, the first niece. Okay, I am the first great
Mm-hmm.
niece. I am the first of the first of the first, right? And realizing how much pressure that put me under, right? Realizing how much of a people pleaser I was as a child,
Hmm.
as well as a teenager, making sure that everyone else is okay, that everyone else is happy, seriously, without measuring my own happiness in many situations, even my friendships, like going with the flow because this is what the other person wanted to do. So
Right.
not really knowing and understanding boundaries. And slowly in my 40s, I started to gain an awareness of that. And when that was happening, there were people around me who didn't know what to do with this Shani that was really standing up for herself, advocating for herself in small and big ways. You know, Shani saying no, like, was like, oh, what do you mean? What do you mean you can't do this and can't do that? Right? Because for my whole life, I'd been looking after other people, seriously looking after other people. My mom was a very young mother and would often lean on me for emotional support.
Mm.
And so I became the person, even for adults, that was lent on for emotional support. You know, I even put aside, as a teenager, I very much put aside experiencing fully that whole teenage love, right? Because I had responsibilities. I had to go home to take care of. If it wasn't one sister, then it became two, because my mom is a career woman. And so I would be juggling my schoolwork with caring for my sisters and running the house, doing the cooking,
Mm.
doing the cleaning. And then even when in my 20s, you know, I got married very early and stepped into marriage and being a wife and paying the mortgage and all these things. So never really had a chance to be the carefree spirit that I felt inside. And so I think in my 40s, I started to, well, I was in therapy and a lot of these things were coming up where there were blocks in my life. I began to understand why those blocks were there. And so my 50s now is like, well, I've been doing this work for a while on myself. And now I feel more connected to that free spiritness, you know, whether it's my Sag moon, whatever.
Mm.
You know, I'm feeling more open to not knowing where things are going, because before, even in relationships, like immediately I want to know, well, what is this? Where's it going? You know? I'm also not wanting to work much. Like I've pulled back. I released clients last year and not knowing how I was going to be able to generate income, but having faith that it would come. And then I won a grant. And so things started to happen. And then the whole grant situation. I have so many updates for y'all who know about the Commonwealth grant, but we'll talk about that another time. Um, but I am just now really understanding what it means to live a soft and slow life. And I freaking love it. Like, I love it. I don't want to be responsible for anyone.
Chantal,
That's okay.
I
I
completely
I don't.
understand.
I don't want to be responsible for
I'm feeling
anyone.
like I want to be there already. I just don't want to be responsible for anyone.
Yo. Okay. And
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of my career building other people's dreams, building other people's brands. And so now I'm building my own dreams and my own brands and pouring my expertise into my own shit
You're right.
so that I can
Yeah.
generate multiple streams of income, bring in the
Finally.
plentitude, bring in the abundance and the prosperity through my heart led initiatives and everything else, and focusing on my stuff. And that's where I am. And also not giving a fuck about those that don't understand that. And
Thank you.
that's what I love about being in my 50s.
Thank
Yo,
Yeah.
when
you.
you see those older people in their 60s and 70s living their best life, it's because they don't give a fuck.
Yeah,
No
this is
fucks.
Marilyn.
No fucks to give.
Not
Fucks?
one.
What are you talking
Not
about?
one.
Are
Because we
you
don't have the
crazy?
time, y'all. We don't have time. It's very fragile. Life is very fragile. And being in my 50s, and I'm healthy, relatively healthy, and working on being even more healthy, but also being more connected to my heart and not so much in my head. The overthinking that I did in my 30s and my early 40s is like, nah, Dread, we're done with that. And more openness. I would always think I was an open person, but nah, not really. Now I'm understanding what it means. And I
Mm.
love that. So yeah, my 50s feels like an adventure. And I'm very open to receiving all the sweetness of life. That's where I am.
Amen.
Amen.
Ashe.
Amen. Ashe,
What a
ashe,
beautiful
Yes.
ashe.
Yes. For this episode of Under the Mango Tree, I thought I would share a short reading from The Pivot Year, 365 Days to Become the Person You Truly Want to Be. And this is a book by Brianna Wiest, which I have been making my way through for just over 300 days now. This passage is actually day 301, and I thought that it was really aligned to our milestone years conversation for this episode. So here we go. What if there were only 60 more holidays left in your life? Or 50 more summers? Or 10 more times you'll wake up early enough to watch the sunrise? What if there were only 15 more times you'll fall asleep listening to the ocean beat against the shore? What if you've already read your favorite book? What if you only have 3 more times to see someone you love? What if you only have 1? How fast does that change things? To think that maybe you do not have forever, though it feels like you have so much longer to survive. How differently will your eyes set their gaze the next time you arrive at one of these sacred moments, those irreplaceable days? How much more will you pay attention? How much more will you see?
All right, my darlings. Well, that was super. I'm sorry for the trauma dump.
Madam, girl,
It was very introspective for me myself. I was just saying things. I'm like,
girl, yes, girl,
But
yes.
let's let go of those things and look into what has brought you joy this week. I think I know Sherween's joy could have been the highlight of filming that video, but I'm sure she has
Wow.
other joyous parts. So
Wow.
Sherween, what
Wow.
brought you joy this week?
Eating a piece of pudding real mess you all up, eh?
No, mess you up.
To
Shut
be
up.
clear, to be clear.
Okay, so what's been bringing me joy? So I am now working on a project with a friend of mine, and we'll be hearing more about that project. But it is working with people who have just been out on parole from prison. Now, anybody who
Oh,
knows me will know that this is something I've always wanted to do, work with disadvantaged youth, work with people coming out of prison to help with their rehabilitation, teach them, how to get back into society and stuff like that. So I got this amazing gig to teach or to run workshops for people aged between 20 and 45, 46, mainly
wow.
males. Well, it's only males at the moment who are out on parole or literally being let out within the next month. So some of them listen, and it is so rewarding for me, but at the same time, it is heartbreaking. Now, I'm not sugarcoating the fact that these are people who did bad things. We're talking
Mm,
murderers, we're talking
mm,
people shooting after each other, we're talking people who chop one another, we're talking people, you understand? They've done some really awful things, some of them,
mm-hmm,
not all, some of them petty crime and stuff, but we're talking people who've been in prison for 21, 22 years. But what is, for me, it is humanizing these people. These people feel like, well, they are outcasts.
mm,
Society is judging them very, very harshly. Now, I put myself, if one of my family members were murdered by these people and I see them coming out of
mm-hmm,
prison, how would I feel? So I'm watching both sides. But
mm,
at the same time, it really is resonating with me because, like I said earlier, I could have gone down that path. And I think this is why it means so much to me. And when I speak to them, I do it with love and I receive love back. These guys, I'm watching big men crying. I'm
Mm.
watching big men begging for assistance, begging because they do not want to go back into the prison
Wow.
system. I'm
Wow.
watching big men saying, "What can I do?" Because everywhere I go, nobody wants to hire me. Nobody, and they understand. They understand why. They're not there saying, why they want to hire me, this and that. No, they're like, Gassa, I know we did bad things. We did bad things, but don't we deserve a second chance? And
Mm.
speaking to them, relating to them, and getting them to pour out and open up. It has just been so beautiful.
Okay.
So I'm working on this project, and I get a lot of fulfillment from it, and hopefully you guys will know more about it, and yes, see where it goes. But there's so much potential, and let me tell you, anything you approach with love, anything we do, approach it with love,
Mm.
not the stereotypes, not the, just approach it with love, because love is very much, these guys they feel the love and the care. And I want to believe that they are open to it and open to making a positive change and to do something for society and for
Mm.
themselves. So that's what's been bringing me joy.
Wow,
So,
Sherween. Well, number one, congratulations on winning that contract.
yes.
And I am very much looking forward to seeing your work and hearing about your work with almost a rehabilitation,
It is
right?
rehabilitation. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Fiona, what's been bringing you joy?
Sherween's pudding story. The end.
Which say it louder, say it louder, say it louder, because I will
Sherween's
remember that, Fiona. I
pudding
will remember.
story. Sherween's pudding story. I can watch that video on
Wow.
repeat. Even though she deleted it, she sent it to me on WhatsApp.
Walker, you cow.
Hi, Chantal. What has brought you joy this week?
What has brought me joy this week? I have another visitor. It's been a steady stream since December. And my good friend Lauren Hill has been in Nevis with me. And it's just been beautiful catching up. Yes, introducing her to all your favorite places, Sherween.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Leave my parties alone, eh,
you
Bob.
know, well, when we were out last night, because as I said at the top of the show, we went out, we actually bumped into Rosie herself. And she's like, make sure you bring Lauren for her patties. And I said, of course. So we will be going to
Bob.
Rosie's party.
Bob. Okay.
Why are
It's
you
all right.
cussing me in
Lauren could
Creole?
enjoy. I know Lauren will enjoy that. So it's okay.
Oh,
It's okay.
it's also, we're having this random mango season. So Lauren has been enjoying the mangoes and all the things. So yeah, having my friends here in Nevis always brings me joy. And having Lauren finally, because Lauren Hill is Lauren Hill. That's all I'm going to say.
All
And
right.
that's it.
And on that note, Fiona, I am still begrudging you for finding joy in my pain and suffering. Um,
Mm.
on that note, people, we want to say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us on season 4 again. We're getting some nice comments, some really lovely letters. Maybe next episode we might read some of them. Keep
Yeah.
them coming. Keep them coming. We love
Yeah.
receiving them. Nothing like reading a letter and bawling out crying, because
Because that's what happens.
that's what happens. We all ball out crying, but thank you. We
Yes.
love you guys. And remember, a shared journey brings
Brings hope.
hope.
Relatable, because a shared journey brings hope.